Hello, Brick Sculptors! Welcome to Brick Sculpt. This is Chris, and we are back. Sorry I took a little bit of a sabbatical this week, so didn't do a lot of videos or any videos during the week. But I am back. Just want a little bit of break there. As work gets busier, I'm going to be doing a few less videos, but we'll still keep the regular content coming, so don't worry. We have a challenge to finish up here. So we did our Brick Sculpt Tech Challenge number 2. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it here as well as the end of this video. I highly recommend watching that first. This isn't going to make a whole ton of sense. In this challenge, our goal was to make a perfect cross in a wall. Now, I had a lot of people comment talking about how it was only a half plate high and it wouldn't fit in a normal wall. Well, yeah, of course, I had to make the challenge difficult. If I just made it a round number, it would have made the item much easier to create. So yes, I know that won't fit into a wall super easily, but it was about the design more than the functionality of fitting a wall. First, I want to show you a couple super simple examples. These don't totally fit the rules, but very creative nonetheless, and I think they're worth sharing. This one I found fascinating. So this person simply took hinges and put them in the wall. Now, why doesn't it work? Well, this is not the right width. The top of the hinge plate, I believe, is a quarter of a plate, not a half. So this is technically a little too thick, but very creative nonetheless to make that bar a little thinner, and it looks pretty good. Backside's not the greatest, but for some applications, that might be the best way to go. Now, this was actually the one that I came up with that I liked the most. Sometimes I did some super complicated ones as well, but I think simpler is better. Now, it's not perfect. In fact, spoiler, none of these are truly perfect, but we'll talk about them. But this was the one I came up with the day I put out the challenge, and a couple other people did very, very similar ideas, and that is to use this Technic lift arm through the middle. I connected it using bars through these 2/3 bricks. There were a couple other ways to connect this, but I found that worked the best. The reason I like this, it looks good. It's structurally sound. It has all the anti-studs and all the studs. The only thing in this solution that doesn't fit the criteria is that little rounded edge on each side. But other than that, it's perfect. Nothing illegal in it, which is great. So I found that solution, and some of you guys did too. So I'm really glad I wasn't the only one who thought of that. But personally, I think this is one of the best, if not the best solution. You guys let me know what you think. All right, what else do we have here? So from here, it starts to get more complicated. Now, I want to point a couple things out. A lot of these solutions are going to use this piece here. This is a 1x1 brick with the Technic hole in it. And most commonly, not always, but most commonly it was paired with a snot brick or with just like a plate and a stud. Now, I'm sure most of you know this, but some might not. This is technically an illegal building technique. And the reason I say that is the height difference is ever so slightly different on these connections where there is a little bit of a lip. Now, for most purposes, this works just fine in a build, but now I'm going to be picky with this because I did kind of state in the challenge that I do believe it is impossible. So I'm going to point out illegal techniques when they're in there. Not that you can't use them, but just so that we know what's what. So this is technically not a legal building technique if you're trying to line it up like that. So just something worth noting here. Okay, another thing people often did in many of the builds that were submitted was use this piece, but not this piece. They used the old version. For some reason, all of mine are missing. I found like one, which I put in this build here. Now, there's a lot of different ways to put this in, but this one fits right here. And the reason that these are different, the older ones were thinner. They're a 4 LDU, or half a plate's width. The new ones are thicker. They're actually a full plate's width in the center. So this design, you can just pop these tiles on here and they're nice and flush to the wall. But with the modern ones of these, it doesn't work. So But this is pretty creative. And I found designs where this was positioned all over the place. This was just one I picked out to build. But lots of cool stuff going on in here. Again, we do have some of those illegal connections. But overall, pretty good build. It's got 3 studs on top, not 5. The side has a little gap, but you wouldn't see that, so I could count that as okay. This side's clean. Bottom has 5 studs. That's a pretty dang good solution. But again, missing a couple studs there, and we do have a little illegal connection there. But overall, not bad. All right, another really common solution was to use these pieces, which are these 1x1 rounds with bars on them. Now, this could be incorporated in a couple of ways, but the most common way was to use these 2/3 bricks. Because they have that open stud, you can stick them together like this. And then you can take a tile on the studded side of it, and it will be flush to the outside. Now, it will make for a messy back, but it will be flush on the outside. So I had several solutions that used this technique, and I think it's a great technique. Here's one in particular. I picked this one because I loved the use of Headlight bricks. Now, this was definitely not the cleanest solution, having these studs on the side, but Headlight brick is super clever to use here, and I do like this because it is not illegal right here. This connection, Headlight brick to snot brick, is a legal connection. The Technic one is not. So, though this might be a little messier, it doesn't have those legal connections. Now, the back, not beautiful, because you do have these round pieces in there, and it's not solid, has a gap, but overall, pretty good. Sorry, some of the colors are funky. I had to scrounge up a lot of parts, and a lot of these I don't have a lot of, so we're gonna have some weird colors. Bear with me here, otherwise I have to do this all in studio or something, which just isn't as fun for a video. All right, and I'm not very good in studio. What else we got? So the most common way by far to fill out the problem of having this extra square was to use the cheese slope. And when I say that extra square, when you do this intersection, we have 1 brick width here, but we have to make this 1 brick width as well, which leaves a 1 brick width by 1 brick width. Well, bricks are taller than they are wide, which leaves a funky half plate size. So we need to kind of get a square in there somehow, which this one did really well with that older piece there, that retired piece. But the most common way by far was to take cheese slopes and stack them the slope side together. Now, I have to note, this technique does work well. It is technically illegal. The size of this, and you'll see this in the builds coming up here, is definitely a little too big, but it's super, super close, and for most practical builds, it would work just fine. Let me show you some cheese slope examples here. We'll start with something kind of simple here. Now, this isn't actually attached, and I have many examples that are attached, but they're going to get more and more complicated the more attachment points we try to add. This has 5 anti-studs on the bottom, 5 studs on the top. So if you're building this in a wall, even though this isn't attached, it would work just fine. The only problems here, one, we do have one of these illegal Technic connections right here, but the big one, that having those cheese slopes does make this stick out more on the sides. You can see right here, this is not going to line up perfectly on the sides. You would be able to cram this in a wall and it would work just fine. Just don't tell the Lego police. Also, if you're not familiar with the term illegal in Lego, I get this comment in every video. Illegal just means a non-approved technique that technically stresses out the parts. No one's going to arrest you, I promise. Or maybe they will, who knows. But yeah, you can see this doesn't fully line up when you do that. Now, I do have some other designs here that the square of cheese slopes is more built in, and it's kind of flexed into place a little bit more. This design I particularly love. This one here, it uses a ton of cheese slopes. It's got these big ones, which are brand new. I had to steal these off my Lego DeLorean because I think that's like the only set, it was the only set it was coming in. Maybe now it's in more, probably is. I don't buy a lot of sets. But it also has 1x2 cheese slopes and a couple of 1x1 cheese slopes. It uses very few pieces. And then these are just snot bricks in all different directions. It is quite fragile, but if built into a wall, it would be nice and strong. Again, though, that cheese slope to cheese slope is technically illegal, but what a great solution there, and great part usage. Now, if you take this off, the whole thing falls apart pretty easily, but I really, really love that answer to this problem. All right, what else do we have? We had a couple of people enter cheese slope builds that had a sawtooth pattern. Now, this particular build, they had all the cheese slopes just lined up, which meant you could move it side to side. I made them all staggered like teeth, so it kind of locks in, and the only way you can move it is up and down. Now, again, this is going to be technically a little bit too tall because of the cheese slope on cheese slope design, but great solution nonetheless. This one incorporated brackets, which I thought was great, but this one does have that illegal connection there, although it may be minimal, worth noting, but great job. You have 5 studs across the bottom. I do have a plate in there holding us together because these are just loose, but again, if you're building this into a wall, that's totally fine. 4 studs on top, which should be good enough, and flush sides. So nice build there. What else do we have? Okay, here's another bracket design. And here you can see that cheese slope is nicely encased, that double cheese slope, nicely encased in the middle. But you can see these edges do stick out just a hair far. Here, if I put a tile on here, you can see it's going to hit that edge and stop. So again, that cheese slope on cheese slope, whether you put it up and down, it's going to make it a little too tall, or side to side, just a hair too wide. There's really not a great way around it, but it is creative. I didn't think of the double cheese slope when I was building my first builds for this challenge. So very creative, and this is an awesome use of all these brackets and things. But one of the better solutions for sure, having good connection points, but there is definitely quite a bit of illegal stuff going on in here. All right, another very common connection, which I really liked, was using axle holes, Technic axle holes. Now, I had to dig through bins to find all of these pieces. You know, I don't have a lot of these laying around, and I definitely don't have a lot of 1x1s with axle holes. So on some of these builds, I did use 1x2s just to get the point across because I didn't have a lot of these parts. I don't pre-order this stuff to make these videos. I just kind of see what you guys come up with, throw some stuff together, and share it with you. So this build I actually made twice as wide, but every piece in here can be cut in half. So this works in a 1-wide platform. We have cheese slopes in the middle, again, making these edges stick out just a little bit too far on each side. But we used that Technic axle, 5 long, all the way through the middle here on both sides. And then here in the middle is kind of creative. We have pins connecting this, these 2 long bar pieces, pinning it together. Now, this is a great solution. And again, it doesn't have to be too wide. I did that because I didn't have the right parts. So if this were 1 wide, it'd be even a better solution. One thing that's really wrong with it, though, studs on both sides. So that would be tricky to put into a wall. Obviously, you could put a tile on the bottom and not have connection on the bottom, but getting a stud reversal really would be helpful to this build. So great solution, though, and I love the Technic axle connection there. All right, here's another solution using those Technic axles. This one does have anti-studs on the bottom. Again, I used 1x2s because I didn't have 1x1s, but it all works the same. These top and bottom are also not attached. This is a cheese slope connection here, right there, a cheese slope on cheese slope, which again is technically illegal. I found it interesting they put it on the side. This is the only solution I saw, I believe, where it wasn't dead in the center. And the way they did this was using 2 of these 2/3 bricks with a bar in the middle to push that cheese slope off to the side, and then using those axle connectors all the way around. 5 studs on top, 5 anti-studs on the bottom, smooth sides. And the other cool thing is using those Technic pieces, you have no illegal connections except for that one cheese slope on cheese slope. Everything else looks clean to me. So pretty cool solution, even though it might not be the most solid. Another way people did this is you can take the Technic bricks, the 1x1s with the Technic holes. Let me take this one apart a little bit. And you can connect them with a pin. So this is one of these 3 long pins that goes through the brick and then connects 2 other Technic pieces on the sides. Now the cool thing about this is when you're doing it with a pin like this, and then these are just connected by tile and plate, there's nothing illegal in here. This is totally legal because you're going Technic to Technic, not Technic to snot. So these sides are totally legal. In the center here, we have a snot piece, but the snot piece is legal because it's going to go in the bottom of a plate, which is a total legal connection. This is interesting. It's more of a friction fit, but we do have a pin in there just to hold this in place to get that down in the middle. So aside from the cheese slope connection, everything is legal on the sides. This is technically illegal, and you can see why here. If I push down, push it together, you can see that movement and those cracks it creates. It is just a hair too big. Now, on the flip side, smooth sides, 1 brick width, only 1 stud on top. Might be able to make that work, and only 1 anti-stud on the bottom. So it definitely still has some flaws. A ton of great solutions. I'm sure for any application of this, you could find one that would work and maybe not be 100% perfect. But I think we took a great stab at it, and I got so many awesome submissions. Thank you to everybody who partook in this. I get the feeling you guys really like these challenges. I hear it all the time from you. So I'll definitely be doing more of these in the future, and I like them too. I learn a lot doing this. I see so many cool techniques I normally wouldn't think of. It works, makes my brain work, and really learn something new of Lego, and hopefully it does the same for you guys too. Well, that's all I have for this time. I hope you guys like this video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and do more just like this in the future. That's all I got for this time, and we will see you next time.